our Chief Meteorologist Ginger Zee here at ABC News to talk about a forecast here and analysis of what we're seeing across the globe. Ginger, good to see your friend. 100 million people affected here in the U.S. Heat advisories across the I-95 corridor in Boston, leading to a heat emergency. This is not normal.
Well, it's great to see you too, Kenneth. Parts of this are not normal. A heat emergency in Boston at this point in the summer, it's actually even a little late, I would say. They've only had 2 90-degree days in Boston, separated by lots of time. So to get an official heat wave is about right, I would say. And a heat emergency is a proper way of dealing with it because it alerts people, hey, you haven't been dealing with this. Where this is not normal is Texas. We just had a piece from there, and we could be doing a piece since mid-April. This is a different type of heat. Even when I was down there recently in Houston, people were saying this summer feels different. It feels different because you're breaking records left and right, all the way through the hottest May and June on record for San Antonio and Austin and other cities as well. They're on track to beat 2011, which was the hottest summer on record. Today, the core or the nucleus of this heat is settled in over kind of Wichita Falls, Oklahoma City. Places that have not yet seen this depth of heat is like the Oklahoma to Little Rock, right through the Ozarks there. And that's who's getting into it now. So it's expanding beyond just Texas, who has been tortured. But probably even more importantly is not just those high temperatures, which we should see all-time July records, meaning in the 150 or 170 years of records, we've never seen numbers like that. We should flirt with those, if not break them in some of those places today. That's part of what makes it not normal. The word normal is a strange one, right? For that reason.
I know you're always so great at helping us distinguish what's normal and what's not. With this deadly heat, it's fueling wildfires in Europe, as you know. So what's the latest on that front?
Yes. So in Europe, we've been watching this recent heat wave, and it's been a hot summer all over Europe in general, which also adds to that cumulative heat where overnights you don't go below the 80s, and then during the day you're up at 100 or more. It doesn't allow bodies to cool down. It doesn't allow agriculture, and it just keeps drying the land. And that's where the issue is this is a drought-driven wildfire for the most part. They're having an incredibly active season. They're busiest in more than a decade in Spain. France is seeing it. Portugal's seeing it. And then you have the intensity of the heat, the longevity of the heat, and that's why you've got at least 1,100 people dead, and those numbers unfortunately will keep going up because heat is the #1 killer. And in my mind, it's often the silent killer. It doesn't have the visibility that a hurricane does. In a hurricane, you lose far fewer people, especially these days. But today, as advertised, we knew this could and probably would happen. London Heathrow made it to 104.36 degrees preliminarily, and this will likely be confirmed, and they can even be less than that and still beat it. This is the hottest temperature that has ever been recorded since the 1800s there in the UK. So when you're talking all-time record-breaking heat, that moves the average line up, but no, I would not say that it qualifies as normal.
Yeah, record-breaking. You were talking about the heat-related deaths here. Everyone can suffer from heat-related illnesses. I was looking at that map of the U.S. temps, and I saw Orlando. And I remember when I was a reporter there for our ABC affiliate, Ginger, I would find shade quickly. I would have a sweat towel. I would stay hydrated. We give these reminders every year because these reminders save lives. What are some of the things people can do to help themselves stay cool during this dangerous heat?
You know, people really focus on temperature, and temperature is important, but there are a whole group of people who, for some reason, don't like the heat index. They think it's, why are you showing that when that's not the temperature? We show that number because that's what your body feels. The heat index tells you how much moisture combined with that heat that is not allowing your skin to evaporate. And those are things you need to watch. So on top of the temperatures, which if they're 100, 110, you got to look at the morning temperature because a lot of people say, oh, I'll get out early, I'll be in the shade. If it's 100 in the shade, which sometimes it can be, I know my friend who's a rancher in Texas said it was 98 before noon today. He said, please tell me 100 by noon is a record because he hasn't even lived this and he's 65 years old. You have to cool your body down. You have to get that core temperature down. I'm not a medical doctor, but I can tell you from the experience of seeing and telling these stories that it's people who push it. And here's another thing. Relative humidity. People are always like, man, it's so humid. And then they look at that percentage. Relative humidity isn't always the best number to look at because it doesn't always tell you the story. More importantly, I would look at the dew point. When you see a dew point above 65 or 70 degrees, that's that soupy air you can wear. Check out the dew point number. And if it's 70, 75, you are in the type of air that is not going to allow you to evaporate. Therefore, it's going to be much more difficult to cool, and you want to limit your exposure outdoors. And, I think we think about this. It is such a privilege for many of us to have access to air conditioning. We wouldn't know what it feels like to not cool down at night. When Dallas is 86 degrees overnight, tying their all-time warmest overnight low, bodies that don't have the privilege of air conditioning don't get a chance to cool down. And you see that no relief overnight when you've got multiple nights in a row of 80s plus. Your body doesn't get a chance to cool down. And it's not just humans, and this is why it sounds so cliche, but pets too. Animals that are outdoor and exposed to this, they need that added hydration. They need less exposure. They need shade, and they certainly need to stay away from closed windows in cars.
Yeah, every time I'm in this heat, I think about Grandma Moten down in South Carolina and how she dealt with the heat, 30 years ago. And then I remember climate has changed. Things are different. So let's talk about the elephant, or maybe the sun in the room, which is, this is all a reflection of climate change.
We are amplifying what would have naturally happened so rapidly and over such a short amount of time because of our lack of holding on to greenhouse gas emissions. We have just spurted out all of these greenhouse gas emissions that then create a blanket and hold the sun's heat and the heat that we already have and the natural variability of our Earth in. Right now, whenever I post something about this or I talk about something like this, the first thing people say is, come on, the Earth has always warmed and cooled. We've been warmer than this before. We have. But that usually comes with a change in Earth's orbit, proximity to sun, volcanic activity. None of those things are happening right now. We are in a different time where the only thing that we have changed dramatically would be how much CO2 and other greenhouse gas emissions we've put up into the atmosphere. Our human activity is exactly what's causing it. And so we have this new thing, it's called the Climate Shift Index. And this actually, with attribution study, tells you tomorrow morning, for example, how much human-induced climate change has to do with the temperature. And tomorrow morning, overnight lows are the strongest indicator of climate change. In the Southwest, it's up to 13 degrees of the heat related to climate change. So you see that average temperature increase 96% in 245 locations over the summer across our nation.
Wow. Wow. Ginger, thank you. Our ABC News Chief Meteorologist and my smartest friend. We need you more than ever during these times to make sense of what we're feeling. So thank you, and stay cool, friend.
Thank you, you too.
Hi everyone, George Stephanopoulos here. Thanks for checking out the ABC News YouTube channel. If you'd like to get more videos, show highlights, and watch live event coverage, click on the right over here to subscribe to our channel, and don't forget to download the ABC News app for breaking news alerts. Thanks for watching.